Hi, I'm Rick Rheins, the senior rabbi at Temple Sinai in Denver, Colorado. And each week we have a little video about the Torah portion, a little lesson. This week, the Torah portion is Va'era, and it begins with the 6th chapter of the book of Exodus. And it starts with a recap of Moses as he first comes back to the children of Israel and tries to inspire them to believe in themselves that they will one day be free. He goes into Pharaoh and says, "Let my people go." And Pharaoh reacts, "Moses, you and the Israelites must have way too much time on your hand, and therefore I'm going to add to your burdens." And he does. So the Egyptians add to the oppression, add to the burdens of the children of Israel, who then Shrai Gavol, "Moses, you made things worse, not better." So that was the recap. This is a Torah portion that also includes the first 6 plagues against Egypt, because Pharaoh keeps adding to these works of oppression, and God keeps giving Pharaoh an opportunity to let our people go, never does. It's also a Torah portion in which we find the halakhic justification, the instruction for the 4 cups of wine we drink at Passover, including the 5th one for Elijah. And that's all tied to the verbs of God will free us, and God will redeem us, and God will bring us to the land. And it's a Torah portion that gives us an opportunity to think of the evolutionary aspect of theology. God says, Va'era, I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as El Shaddai. But to you, Moses, I am Yud-He Vav-He, I am Adonai, I'm Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. I am God who will make things happen in our day. And of course, the commentators focus on all of those aspects of this Torah portion, and there's so much to learn. I want to focus on one sentence, one part of a sentence in this 6th chapter of Exodus. And it says, V'lo sham'u el Moshe mikotze ruach u'me'avodat kasha. That after Moses was trying to inspire the children of Israel, lo sham'u, they did not listen, they could not listen, they were unable to listen to Moses, mikotze ruach, because of the kotze ruach is defined in a number of different ways, and I'm going to get to that in a second. Either the crushed spirit, or the impatient spirit, or the inability to listen, me'avodat kasha. That was the result of the oppressive labor. So that idea of having a kotze ruach, a crushed spirit, Rashi said that crushed spirit came because Pharaoh had oppressed us so much that we had a sense of anguish, that the spirit that we had within us could not have any positive hope that Pharaoh had, and the Egyptians had, really caused our spirit to succumb to the anguish. On the other hand, Chizkuni, who is in the 14th century of France, he thought that the kotze ruach, the suppression of our spirit, came because of the harsh labor, that the oppression of the Egyptians forced us to reevaluate even the value of any hope at all. Sforno in the 16th century in Italy, he said that, you know what, they were slaves. They weren't intellectually, spiritually prepared for a lesson of going forward. Other commentators said the same thing, that because they didn't have a Torah, the idea that there could be a hope, that there could be a promised land, that there was a life that was better, it didn't even occur to them. So the kotze ruach, literally ruach, the spirit, could either be the breath, that they had a shortness of breath because of the oppression, shortness of breath because of the anguish, shortness of breath because of the harshness of the labor, but also a shortness of spirit, that they didn't believe that they could go on. They didn't believe that there would be a better life. And that was a challenge for Moses. And it's easy for us to look at them and say, why didn't they just believe? Why didn't they just take all of Moses' teachings and rise up? Well, we know better now. We've been through a time of oppression. We have had that kotzer ruach, that shortness of spirit, that impatience of spirit, the burdens of a COVID, a pandemic that has caused us to be distant from the people that we love, the worry that eats away at our soul, the worry of when will I get a vaccination? And if I do get a vaccination, will it work? And some people are reacting badly to it. What will happen? And then if I get it, but my loved ones don't get it, or they're still months away from getting it, I still won't be able to go visit. And so we have all of these adding to the burdens of this pandemic, the separation, the anxiety, the anguish. Then, of course, the news comes on. Boy, you watch too much news and you know what happens. The disappointment, the frustration that we're experiencing in Washington. Yes, transitions. Yes, divisions. Yes, impeachments. And it can start to wear down our soul. Our kotzer ruach, the burden on our soul, the shortness of our soul. Kotzer means to shorten, to impact, even to crush a person's soul. It happens from worry. It happens from the situation that we're living through that doesn't seem to have a light at the end of the tunnel. And this week's Torah portion reminds us there will be a Torah. Dayenu, there will be a Torah. And there is a hope, there is a promised land. We don't always have a Moses that comes and teaches us that we're going to overcome the Pharaoh. We're going to overcome the avodah kasha, the harsh labor. We're not going to have a miracle person come by and just talk us out of our fear and anxiety. We have to listen and learn from our own Torah portion, from our own lives, that as long as we listen and believe and hold on to the experiences of our ancestors. Our Jewish people have been through so much. That's the idea of reading Torah each week, that you learn from what they went through and you go, I can identify with that. I can identify with a kotzer ruach, with a crushed spirit. And yes, they struggled. And no, they didn't believe right away. And it wasn't all happy ever after, because that's not life. But every generation discovered something special. We're going to discover something special. We will listen. We will have a time through this pandemic. We will get through this time of anxiety and difficulty in Washington. But we have to be ready as well to listen, to open up, to live, to love, to build that better world, not with a crushed spirit, but with a rededicated spirit. I pray that as we read this portion and we involve ourselves with our community, that we'll discover the strength within. God bless.